One of the reasons why I love being Christian is that whenever I get offended, instead of me looking at things from my own perspective or from my own understanding, I immediately step back and ask myself, what would God think? What would God do in the situation? How does God present his servants to act like in situations like this? This helps me take myself out of like my feelings, my own natural bias perspective, and look at it through a lens of the truth. Just because you're offended by something does not mean that what the person is saying isn't true, or does not mean that the person is evil or your enemy. When you have the understanding that we're flawed humans and our thought process and our heart can be deceitful, it automatically makes you take a step back and analyze. It helps you to regulate so that you're not acting off of emotion. You're not acting off of your own understanding. Instead, when something hurts my feelings or something bothers me so much, I take it to God, because what that shows me is that there's an underlying issue within me, or there's something in my heart that needs to be worked on. There's a trigger somewhere there, and I want to understand that trigger to understand why it creates these emotions within me. Most times, if it pertains to like a negative emotion, anger, sadness, reservedness, I like to understand where's that coming from, especially if when I'm looking at it through like a outward lens and it seems like what the person said or did should not be that deep, or you understand this is not a situation or a conversation that should have you dwelling and thinking about it for weeks on end. When you have that self-awareness coupled with God's laws, the relationship with God, knowing what the truth is and how we are supposed to respond, how we are supposed to operate as Christians, it makes it that much easier to have self-control. In fact, you will have self-control because you're going to take a step back and think, okay, this is bothering me a lot. My next moves or my next steps from this conversation, this situation, is going to dictate or determine the trajectory of my life, that relationship, whatever part of the journey you're in. So for example, if you naturally have a pattern that God is working on you with just cutting off friends. Once you get offended, you cut them off, or once you notice something you don't like, you just cut them off. But you've built that relationship with God, and he's made it prevalent and clear to you that that's not the way to go. He has shown you the type of patterns that you need to break, or what it is you struggle with. Through you cutting people off, he has shown you that you lack grace. And so now you have that understanding. You have that point of view through working on yourself and through God's revelation of the issues you struggle with. So now, instead of responding how you used to respond, because God has already shown you that's not the way to go, or he has shown you the characteristics of his son, how to be like his son, you're checking yourself. It helps you to have that self-control because you're not going to act out in emotion. Whether your humanness comes out and you do blow a fuse, or whatever unhealthy action that may come out from it, you now have that conditioning to self-reflect. So even if you did blow a fuse, even if you did step backwards, you now have the ability to self-reflect, recognize your own faults, recognize what perspectives, what biases that you hold, and how is it aligning with God's words. And then you're able to redirect yourself or reposition yourself into a more just way of thinking, a better way of thinking, because with God, all things are good. So his ways are good. It's going to work out the way it should be. And when you're aligning with what God says to be like, or what his son is like, then you know that you are going in the right direction. Because at the end of the day, although God has wrath, he has compassion. He always emphasizes that we must bear the fruit of the Spirit. And the fruit of the Spirit does not say anger in it. It says self-control, love, peace, patience, kindness, all of those things that represent who God truly is, what it means to have the Holy Spirit. And all of those things are good. All of those things is what helps you have more grace, compassion for those so that you can let go. Once you learn grace, you really learn how to let go. You learn to look at yourself as a human and others as a human too. Those practices of just walking out people's lives because they offended you off of one thing that they said, or cutting off a family member because their views are different, you're not leading with love. There's a better way to go about it. So the ability to have the blueprint, the truth as a guideline on how you maneuver relationships, friendships, life, and it causing you to self-reflect is the greatest thing about Christianity, because now you're stepping out of your flesh. You're not letting your flesh lead, but you're letting the Holy Spirit lead. Instead of escalating that situation more than it needs to be, you being able to take a step back, self-reflect, and then act off of what the Holy Spirit guides you to do, which is always going to be good, you will see how fulfilling your life becomes. You will see how much lighter you become, how much grace you have for others. The self-control is so important, and the fact that you have all that, honestly, for me, that's the best thing about being a Christian. It's just the ultimate growth. I love the growth. Grudges is not the wave. Okay, y'all. Holding resentment towards people is not the wave. You're suffering more than they are, trust. And it's just lighter. So I just thank God that I'm able to have that type of wisdom, because it is essentially wisdom to be able to recognize, oh, this is an area where I have an issue with. This is very much a me thing as well. Of course, everyone has their role, but to be able to recognize this is a trigger or this is a me thing, and then have a guideline that helps you target it in a way where you know it'll be healthier and you'll grow into the person you're supposed to be, a better person, a loving person, a reflection of Christ. Sorry, y'all. It's the best thing ever. It is. I love the self-growth. I love this feeling of knowing I'm going about it in a healthier way, that I'm becoming the best version of myself. And that best version of myself is actually reflecting and representing God's image of me. God bless y'all.